Okay, this video is just going to be a raw, uncut, 20-30 minute video describing something that happened in the second year that Jackson and I were operating our land business. So if you've seen some of our other videos, you know that we flip land. We have a land flipping business that does over 7 figures a year, and it has for the last 2 years straight. So this was back in 2023, and what ended up happening was we lost about $58,000 in one day. Not only one day, it was within about a 5-minute span while we were at the gym when we were living in Austin, Texas. So what actually happened was we had switched how we were doing things with our business. The year that I'm describing, it was just Jackson and myself. We didn't really have a full operation. We didn't have the team that we have now. We didn't have the systems in place that we do currently, so that this type of thing doesn't happen. But this did happen, so I wanted to share it with you guys and explain what happened, why it happened, how we can switch things around so that this type of thing doesn't happen again, and why it won't happen again, and why it won't happen to you guys. So the month that this happened, we had about $70,000 to $75,000 in revenue lined up in deals, lined up in land flipping deals, properties that we sold. Not properties that we own, because we flip properties we don't own, but it was properties that we sold, revenue that we had coming into the business. We had about $75,000 worth of revenue. And typically, now how we do things, we sell about 25 to 35 lots per month, so that if we lose 2, 3, 4 deals in a month, it's not detrimental. We don't lose money, and we're still able to pay the bills, right? Because we have expenses, we have to pay them off, and between everything, the last thing we want is the business to go red, right? So this type of thing won't happen again, but this month that I'm describing to you, these 3 deals we lost, one of them was a $20,000 deal. I'll explain why that one fell through. Another one was a $20,000 deal, and another one was an $18,000 deal. So we lost $58,000 worth of profit in about 5 minutes, which is insane. And it's just something that you have to live with. Jackson wasn't too upset. I wasn't upset. We were still able to eat. It's not like anything was detrimental. We're still able to pay the rent, right? But it definitely wasn't fun. So something I wanted to share on here. And again, I'm going to tell you exactly why it happened so that it doesn't happen to you guys and it won't happen to us again. So we ended up only making like $12,000 that month. And like I said, we have expenses, right? So our expenses are probably close to $12,000 that month. So we definitely didn't make too much profit. It wasn't something to be proud of. It was a situation that doesn't happen often, but it did happen. So the reason why we only had a few deals that month is because we changed our strategy. It was Jackson and myself. Again, we were pretty new to this still. This was back in 2023. Now it's 2025. But we switched our marketing strategy from doing what was working, doing 20 or 30 consistent smaller deals per month, so that we always had anywhere from about $90,000 to $110,000 in revenue coming in every single month, that were at an average spread of about $5,000. We switched our strategy to going towards larger deals, doing less of them, because each deal is the same amount of work, just depends on how much profit is in between them. But there's a bigger chance of it falling through with these other types of deals. So falling through meaning lose the deal, we don't get the money from it, it doesn't come money in the bank, right? So just like these deals I'm describing here. So we had 3 deals. One of them was in North Carolina. 2 of them were in Tennessee. The first one, I believe we had it at $80,000. We sold it at $100,000, and we had a builder lined up to buy the property, and we had a due diligence period on there and a closing date. The closing date, it was the last day of the due diligence period, and the closing date was supposed to be in 2 days. So we thought everything was good. We thought the builder got the survey. We thought the soil was okay. Everything was going to be fine, and we were going to be fine to close and make the $20,000 on the deal. Turns out it wasn't, right? So when we're at the gym, we get a phone call. We hear that the soil doesn't perk correctly. A perk test in North Carolina shows that the soil is able to be built on. So the soil did not perk correctly, meaning the builder didn't want to follow through. He wanted to back out on the deal on the last day of due diligence, and there was nothing we could do about it. Lost $20,000 on that deal. And then about a few minutes later, we get a phone call for another property that we had under contract in Tennessee. We had this contract, I believe it was around $20,000. We sold this one for $38,000. Situation that happened here, everything looked like it was good to go. Didn't have to worry about surveys or soil or anything else like that. What ended up happening on this one was somebody was pretending to be the husband for the property. They forged the wife's signature, and it was just a faulty signature. It wasn't correct. It was forged. It wasn't the actual owner. The actual owner didn't want to sell. It was a fake person. It was a person that didn't own the property that was trying to go through and basically scam us through the property and get the deal done, even though they didn't own it anymore, or they weren't the actual person, or it wasn't the owner that wanted to follow through with the property. So nothing we could do in that situation. We're just the middleman. It is what it is. We lost $18,000. So now we're up to $38,000 lost while we're at the gym, living in Texas. So that happened. Then another situation happened where it was a property that we had. Again, I think this one was at $80,000. We sold this one for $100,000, and we haven't heard from the buyer. We haven't heard from the builder. We're ready to go. It's our last hour of due diligence. We had to get this done, or else we had to deposit a $10,000 earnest money check. We had an earnest money deposit of $10,000 on the contract, meaning as soon as that expiration period expires, we have to deposit that. We were liable to deposit this money, which we did not want to have to do at the time. And we had to call the owner, terminate the contract. We haven't heard from the builder or the buyer. He's been out of town. So we figure he doesn't want the property, right? We go ahead, we terminate the contract at $80,000. We had the builder at $100,000. He said, I'm good to go. I should get back from vacation. We were waiting for 2 weeks. It didn't happen. We didn't want to deposit the earnest money. Last hour of the expiration period, we terminate the agreement. We're fine, but we lose the deal, right? As soon as we terminate the agreement, the buyer calls us, hey, I just got back from vacation. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to purchase that at $100,000. But we call back the seller, can't get a hold of her. Now she wants more money. She doesn't want to get the deal done. And the whole thing ended up falling through because this guy was out of town, was on vacation, and he kept giving us false promises when he was going to get back and get the deal done, and we lost another $20,000 on that. So like I said, we were supposed to make $70,000 that month, and within the span of about 5 minutes, we lost $58,000 in profit from these 3 deals. And again, why I'm getting on here and telling you this is because a lot of the things that we'll post about, or that people will post about with their business, they just show you the wins, they just show you the amazing things that happen with it. And again, like, amazing things have happened with this business. Of course, that's why we do it every single day. Of course, that's why we're teaching other people to do it. That's why we live in the house we live at. We're able to do everything that we do. We're able to have all the amazing things that we do, take care of our family, be able to travel, be with our family, spend time wherever we want, and do things. But there definitely is negatives that go with building a business, running a business, and doing something like this. So that's why I wanted to share this thing that happened. But the reason why it happened, again, and I'm telling you that it's something that won't happen and why it won't happen to you, is because when you have something that's working, like I explained, we had the 20 to 30 small deals per month that were working, and we switched that. If something's working, don't switch it up. Run it until the well runs dry, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's where we messed up, and that's the mistake we made, and that's why we got ourselves into that situation. That's why we almost ended up in the red that month, and it hasn't happened since. There's many different things you can do to get out of that scenario. Another thing to do is just verify that the seller is real and go through a lot of precautions. Again, we were new to this. This was only our probably barely a year into this, so we were still new. We've been in this game 3 years now, so nothing like this or even close to this has happened since then. But these things do happen. There are people that try to scam over properties. There are people that try to pretend to be a seller for a property and try to get the money out of the property even if they don't own it. So it's something that you have to watch out for when flipping land. But of course, there's a lot of positives with this business as well. So I can just talk about a few different months we had after that to talk about some light on this side of the business, where we had a few large deals come in, and we got a couple properties under contract that we did not think were worth as much money as they were, and there were a few deals that ended up stacking up within a month. So there was a month, it was March of that same exact year, 2023, and we made about $323,000 in a month. And at the time, I think the most money we've ever made from our business was around $110,000. So For this to happen, it was amazing. It was a stack of events, kind of exactly like I described, but in the opposite fashion, where this was a positive series of events. So we had a $45,000 deal go through that we weren't expecting. We had a $90,000 deal that we did not know was worth as much as it was. And then we also had our 20, 25 normal deals that we had within a month. So between everything, it ended up stacking up, and we ended up having an amazing month. We ended up making the most profit that we ever have in a month. And that's just kind of how this goes when you're getting into a business and running a business and being an entrepreneur and trying to run your own show and do your own thing. Is there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, and they happen all the time. So it's something that you have to be ready for. And again, like, not many people can handle the stress of losing $58,000 in 5 minutes, but because we could, we made $323,000 a few months later. And that's why you have to honestly just be consistent and stick with whatever business, whatever endeavor you're going into. And whether it's trying to start your land flipping business, whether you want to try and start a shoe selling business, a landscaping business, a car washing business, whatever it is, nothing's going to be easy, but the whole road is simple. So if you continue to do it, and Jackson and I were doing it at a pretty high level at the time, we still had those hard times where, again, like I said, we made $12,000 in a month, paid off expenses. We probably didn't make anything because we had those few deals fall through, but we didn't care. We knew that that's just part of it. That's part of trying to do this. That's part of trying to go off on your own and run your own show. And when you want to make months where you're making $323,000 in a month, you have to go through those hard times of dealing with stress, dealing with losing $58,000 in 5 minutes, and understanding that it's okay, not swinging your emotions, and figuring out what went wrong and why that happened, shifting back the game plan to figuring out what worked and doing more of that and less of what wasn't working, to get to the point where you're doing these months consistently and continuing to build and build off of what you have. And I think that's the biggest lesson to take from this is there's going to be a lot of highs and there's going to be a lot of lows, and you need to be able to take both of them and understand that it's not going to come overnight. It's not going to happen right away. With this business model, success does come pretty quickly, and you just have to get used to that and understand that if you do make a $20, $40, $50,000 deal within your first few weeks doing this, because I've seen people do that again and again, it's don't get complacent, don't get comfortable, and don't get used to it. Continue to do the same exact thing that you did to get there and build off of that and do more and more deals. And don't focus on the big deals, just focus on doing as many deals as possible, as many transactions as possible. And anybody can get to the point where they're doing 6 figures a month with this business. Like I said, you can be doing $10,000, $20,000 in profit on each deal. So if you're doing 5 to 10 deals a month, it's truly life-changing. And again, it's not too hard to get to that point. You just, again, have to be willing to put in the time, put in the effort, and be able to deal with some stress. So if that's the type of person you think you are, anybody can do this, and I truly believe that. And we've seen people do this time and time again. Jackson's just a normal person. I'm just a normal person. Jackson brought me into this about 3 years ago. He started a few months before I did, and I learned the ins and outs of the business. He showed me the ropes, and within a few months, I was doing consistent deals. I was doing 10, 15 deals a month, and that was coming from no knowledge. That was coming from not much experience in business whatsoever. I was in college. I was 19, and I worked at a bar. I did a little bit of sales for my father when I was 17 years old, and other than that, I worked at a restaurant, I worked at a bar, and liked real estate, knew it was something I wanted to get into, but literally have never done anything in real estate. And at this point now, I've done hundreds of real estate transactions. I just turned 22 years old a few days ago. I've done hundreds of real estate transactions, tens of millions of dollars in revenue with this business, and taught countless people how to do this. And the only reason why is because I was willing to try something, willing to go off on my own, and willing to deal with the stress and the hardships that I just told you about. And if you're that type of person, there's no reason why you can't do the same exact thing. Again, it's just, I was in college, partying every single day, wanting to get to the point where we're at now and beyond. Obviously, we want to strive for more. This isn't something we're content with where we're at, but we're not happy at this point. Never will be. But the only time I saw change is after Jackson told me, let's get it going, let's do this and take it seriously. And we spent 5 a.m. to midnight our first 3 months focusing nonstop on this business, deleted social media, didn't go out, didn't drink, didn't party, didn't hang out with my friends. And that's what it takes if you want to do something like this. Obviously, again, like this business model that we're teaching, it's something where you can see success very quickly. So you don't have to go to that extreme. You can work a few hours a week and make this work. But if you want to get it to a high level, if you want to take this to a serious point where, again, you have insane time freedom, you're making over 6 figures a month, then you're going to have to give some sacrifice, and it's something that has to happen. But I can tell you, from being on both sides of partying in college, basically wasting my life away with no purpose, no idea of what I wanted to do in my life, to making over $500,000 in a month on some months, and consistently doing millions and millions of dollars a year, I can tell you that it's worth it. And if that's something you want to do, I can tell you that it's extremely possible. But again, it's up to you. You have to be the one to take the risk. You have to be the one that is willing to try this out on your own. And it may fail for a little while, but you have to stick to it, because again, if you're not consistent, you're not going to get anywhere with this. So that's my piece. I just wanted to get on here, explain those 3 deals that fell through, why it ended up happening, the whole story behind losing $58,000 in 5 minutes, and the story behind successful months that we saw around that, and explaining the highs and lows you're going to go through with this. But the highs are a lot higher than the lows you're going to have to deal with. So yeah, that's basically all I had for this video. So I'm going to sign off now, but appreciate everybody that came on here and listened, and stay tuned for the next one.